Hello and welcome to the Foilist TV. Today we're doing the first semifinal from Rio, Timur Safin vs Daniele Garozzo. As always, the bout itself is viewable on my website from the link in the description. And of course, we'll start with how both fencers got here. Safin took out his teammate Alexei Cheremisinov in the round of 32, edged past James Andrew Davis in the round of 16, and handily beat Chen Haiwei in the round of 8. Garozzo had two Egyptians in his first round, with an easy win over Ayad and a much trickier time with Abu al-Qassem, before ending Guilherme Toldo's run in the round of 8. Interestingly, both fencers' toughest bouts so far were in the round of 16, and both came out of the quarterfinals looking very solid. For both Garozzo and Safin, their greatest weapons are their attacks. As we've hopefully seen by now, for Garozzo it's a slow march in 3 into a long or short finish, and for Safin it's a very patient withheld march into a long compound advanced lunge. I'd say they stack up about like this. Garozzo's attack works slightly more often than Safin's, but Safin's defense is generally slightly better than Garozzo's. But both fencers' attacks are better than their opponents' defenses by about the same margin. As expected, this bout was all about the attacks. With both fencers struggling to win the march off the lines, we saw quite a few simultaneous situations. In 3 of those, Garozzo didn't turn a light on, possibly due to a weapon malfunction. Though he had the referee test it several times, he never switched it for a new one for some reason. And speaking of the referee, let's now address the elephant in the room, those calls. To grossly simplify things, if we imagine a spectrum with mostly favoring the march on one side and mostly favoring a simple attack into the march on the other side, then this referee happens to fall closer to the simple attack side of things than I think most other referees would. Both fencers seemed to realize this early on and made small adjustments to best make use of it. So if either fencer didn't like being marched at, he could simply make a strong attack into it and have a reasonable chance of getting the touch. Remember that both fencers' attacks are their strongest actions, so this style of refereeing allowed them to match strength against strength, rather than having to rely on defensive actions that weren't necessarily up to the task. However, as the bout progressed, it became clear that Garozzo was benefiting far more from these calls than Safin was. Safin found one simple lunge right into a pause in Garozzo's march very early on, and his usual defensive game proved unable to deal with Garozzo's march. Side note, Safin's coach Cerioni was vehemently telling him to use parry riposte after a false counterattack, but he never made that work. But when Safin tried to use the same simple lunge into Garozzo's march twice later, the call went to Garozzo both times. Meanwhile, every time Garozzo made a strong advance lunge into Safin's march, the call always went to him. So Safin was left in a pretty bad spot altogether. On defense, parry riposte just wasn't working against Garozzo's attack, and attacking into a pause never worked after the first time. Moreover, Safin's own marching attack, normally pretty workable against an opponent like Garozzo, was failing over and over against Garozzo's own simple attacks. This led Safin to lose confidence in his ability to finish, which in turn meant that Garozzo's attacks in preparation scored even more, and the bout quickly spiraled out of Safin's control, with Garozzo taking a surprisingly steep 15-8 victory. Now, to be absolutely clear, I am not saying that the referee's calls were wrong or that he was biased in any way. I am saying that Garozzo's fencing benefited more from the way the calls were made than Safin's fencing did. You can see a side-by-side comparison of some of the closest calls at the end of the commentary video. Anyway, that's all I have for this semifinal. Click the links on the screen to see both fencers' previous bouts from the rounds of 8 and 16. Links to the commentary, previous bouts, and Who's Who videos for both fencers, and my Discord server are all in the description as always. Feel free to discuss this bout in the comments, and stay tuned for the second semifinal. Thanks for watching, and stay sharp.